So how much salary do you need to buy a 250k apartment in Germany? I'm Darius, by the way, and we have already helped hundreds of experts in Germany buy and invest in property. So for us, this is daily business. In this video, we will discuss how much salary do you need to finance a property, the bank payments you have to make every month, what other monthly costs are important, how much equity capital you need, and the purchase costs. Quick disclaimer, every financing situation is different and every home loan financing is individual. So in this video, I will generalize a bit in order to make it understandable for all of you. If you want to know what's possible for you or which bank works best for you, click on the first link in the video description or here on this video. If you like, you can get in touch with us for a free consultation and we will go into your requirements on a very individual basis. Let's dive into the first step. Step 1, bank payments. The payments you need to make to the bank are in two different parts. The interest, meaning what it costs to borrow the money, and the actual repayment of the money you borrowed. So first, the interest. Right now, the interest rates are quite high compared to 2020. The US pushed them up as well as the European Central Bank. At the point of this recording, it's around 2%. Banks usually want to earn money, so you will probably get financed at around 4% depending on your situation. For the repayment on the money itself, banks usually want 2%, meaning in total, you will pay around 6% for mortgage. So let's calculate together. We have 250k mortgage, we have 4% interest and 2% repayment, so 6% mortgage rate in total, which leads to 15,000 euros annual mortgage payment. So we need to divide that by 12. So we have 1,250 that you need to pay monthly to the bank. Now, just as comparison, if we have 500,000, obviously the numbers look the same. So in the end, we would have 30k in mortgage payment annually divided by 12, which leads to 2,500 euros per month that you need to pay to the bank. But that's not the whole truth here, and not all you need to consider. Your financing partner, meaning the bank that gives you the loan, will want you to succeed and sustain. Hence, they will calculate that you can accommodate the cost of living as well, which needs to be covered by your net income. Even if you want to use this as a capital investment, each bank has different default values, some more or less strict. For cost of living, depending upon how many people you have in the household, how many cars you own, and other liabilities that you have that will count negatively for the bank. These default values vary from bank to bank. So if one bank does not finance you, this does not mean that another bank will not finance you as well, because they may have different approach. On average, 1 in 3 financing requests is approved in Germany. Step 2, other costs of living. What are the monthly costs of living in that apartment apart from the monthly loan rate? In Germany, there is something called Hausgeld. That's for management and maintenance of the property. Then you will have electricity, water costs. These will in total come up to approximately 100 euros per month for such an apartment. But be aware, if you buy this as an investment, most of the costs will be covered by your tenant, not yourself. Step 3. Purchase costs, meaning what will be your own contribution. Banks will give you up to 100% financing of the purchase price, but this will not cover 100% of the total cost. The bank expects you to bring ancillary costs, which means like we have notary, which is on average 1.5% of the purchase price. Then we have court costs because you as the owner need to be registered officially so no one can claim like in other countries that it's not your apartment. So we have court, which is 0.5%. Then we have land transfer tax. This is different in each state in Germany. In Bavaria, which is the cheapest state, we have 3.5%. In North Rhine-Westphalia, which is most expensive, we would have 6.5%. So it depends. And then we also have broker, or let's call it agent, which is on average, I would say 3.57%. So now it totally depends in which state you buy the property. Do you have a broker included? We typically recommend properties without a broker, so we can connect you directly to the owner or the developer, for example. So let's take average. Let's say it's 3.5 plus 2, maybe 5.5 to maximum roughly 12%. So on average, we might have 7% costs. So if we assume a 500k property, 7%, let's do it like this. 500, 7% would be 35. And if we have 250 and obviously 50%, so 17,500, which would be necessary as minimal equity capital requirement. If you buy something for your own use, the interest is not tax deductible. So it might make sense to put more down if possible. But if you go for 100% financing, you finance 100% of the purchase price and you pay the equity capital, in that case, 7% out of your own pocket. So after all these costs, what net household income is required to get financing and buy a property as an investment or for personal use? And what if you want to tenant and use the property for wealth building? Step 5, the net household income, meaning what you and your partner, if applicable, earn after taxes. Banks will use the 30, 40, 50 rule. What does that mean now? Let's say 30% of your net income can be maximum mortgage payment. So we have 30%, we have 40%, and we have 50%. So we come back to the same example. We have 1,250. So 30%, let's call it 4,100. Then 40%, let's call it 3,100. I guess is even correct. And 50% is obviously 2,500. So if you have a net income of 2,500 and you find a bank which says 50% rule is applicable, then you can pay 1,250 for the mortgage and you get 100% financing. I just have to say, this is really unlikely. There are some options, but typically a bank says, well, if 50% of your net household income is only for the mortgage, and if any emergency arises, then you already have a problem. And like I said earlier, this is something banks would like to avoid because you should sustain the loan so they can actually make money due to interest. 40%, I would say, is okay. Most banks actually do 40% of your net income, but I would say it's not recommended, because if you earn 3,100 and you pay 1,250 euros in mortgage, then there is not that much money left. Especially we need to add 100 euros for, let's say, maintenance and management. Let's do it correctly. Plus 100 euros for management and maintenance. Then there might be some repairs. Then you have to eat something. You might have a car. So this is, I would say, unhealthy. Possible, but unhealthy. If we are talking about 30%, then it's nice. Everything below is obviously even better, because if you now pay 1,250, there is still enough money left to invest in ETFs, maybe to build some emergency funds, just to be prepared if something happens. You can easily travel. You don't have to flip every coin to enjoy life, because it doesn't make sense just to buy a property for the sake of owning a property. It should make sense from overall. So 30% is the good number, 40% is okay and possible, at least from bank's perspective, and 50% sometimes possible, but definitely not recommended at all. So if we come back to the other example of 500,000, where we also have obviously the same rule of 30, 40, 50%, then it's really important that you need to understand, well, 30% is quite a lot. If we are talking about a mortgage payment of 2,500 euros per month and you need a certain salary, so it's only 30%, then we are already talking about probably, I didn't calculate it, let's say 7K. So 2,500 is 30%. Roughly. So if we're talking about a household income of 7K, then it would be healthy. And this is the most common mistake I see people make, is that they buy properties which are too expensive. Because if you have a household income of 7K minus 2.5, plus maybe now some higher costs for management because the property is bigger and you have more maintenance because there's just more size, then it's okay. But if we're now talking about 50%, where you have a 5K salary or household income and 2,500 costs plus 200 euros for maintenance, then again, there is not that much room left. There is vacation, groceries, maybe education for children. How should you save any money on top? So please be aware here. Don't make this common mistake. Look for healthy mortgage situations so you can buy a property, you can achieve that dream, but without giving up anything else. Please consider this is only if you use the property for yourself. If you use this as a capital investment, the whole situation looks different. So let's look at the same example. You buy a 250k property, and now a few things change. First of all, you have rental income, which you obviously don't have if you move in yourself. So if you have rental income, maybe realistic would be 1,000 euros. Here, we can now finance differently because we can go for a lower repayment rate, which is fine because interest is tax deductible. So now we might talk about a repayment rate of, or let's say mortgage rate of 1,200 euros in total, which leads to negative 200 euros out of your own pocket, which is quite affordable. And this is before all the tax benefits that you generate. So after taxes, you might be minus 200, or maybe before taxes, sorry, or minus 300. But after taxes, because tax refunds are huge in real estate, you might generate 200 to 300 euros passive income. And if you generate 200 to 300 euros passive income, then you can obviously scale the portfolio indefinitely because you earn money. You don't have any costs. The only thing you would need would be the equity capital, which is mentioned here, 250,000, depends on the state. You only need 17,500 to buy such a property. Then after costs, after taxes, everything is covered. And then maybe you can save this amount every 2 years. So you save maybe 800 euros per month, roughly. So you save 800 euros per month to build up the equity capital of roughly 18k every 2 years. And then you can buy a property every 2 years where you add 200 to 300 euros cash flow to your income. So the solution, in my opinion, is not doing like either or, that you say, okay, I only buy a property for my own use or I only invest in rental properties. I mean, depends obviously on the situation, but perfect plan would be doing both if it makes sense in your situation, obviously. Because now let's talk about the full plan and why it's so important to have good mortgage conditions and a healthy mortgage. If we have 30%, we have 4,100 euros income, 1,250 in costs. So there is enough money left, for example, to save 800 euros per month. Now you can scale a property portfolio, add passive income, and on top of that, property appreciates, the tenant pays back the mortgage, so you also automatically build wealth. So we have two scenarios. Scenario one, someone goes for the 50% line, invests most of the budget into the home, and that's it. I mean, you will have a home, cool, no rent in retirement, but that's it. You won't become wealthy. Or you go for the 30% rule, you still have enough budget left, you buy one property or another property every 2 years. You continue doing that for the next 10 years. So you buy 5 apartments in total. When the mortgages are paid off, you have at least 5,000 euros passive income by investing 17,500 each, let's say times 5, let's say 80k that you have invested for a passive income of 5k, which is crazy return because this is already 60k in a year, which totally makes sense from financial perspective. But please remember, at the end of the day, it's totally individual and we are generalizing data in this video. If you want, we now offer completely free consultations where we go through your finances and what you could save in taxes through your real estate purchase and the German government subsidies. For most people, it's up to 10,000 euros a year through a real estate purchase. This is not a sales call and it's completely free. So if you don't want to do all the calculations yourself and want help from someone who has already helped thousands of expats get a property, click on the link, fill out the short form and book a consultation.